Yeah, Miller Chalk with Inglett Stubbs Electrical Construction. And the primary result of working with System and Soul has really been unity and clarity on the vision and direction and the goals, both quarterly and annually. I brought Benj in when it was really 6 months into me taking over as president. So we're a 71-year-old business, but I'd been talking to him for a while. We actually brought Benj in to help us with our values, defining our values, probably 5 years ago or something before System and Soul. And so, I had that connection and, that in mind of him being a potential partner who could help me with what I wanted to accomplish. So it was, before that, really, the business since I've been here has been very reactive, and we've done some projects and had some goals on things, but not any clarity on where we're headed and long-term goals or direction, or even the short-term stuff that we've really seen success through what we've been able to accomplish quarterly. And getting off site and getting together as a team and talking about real problems and having real discussions and working through that stuff and coming out unified on what we're going to do next and how we're going to get there. And really it's been as much of the benefit of getting aligned on what we're not going to work on. That's a key piece that I think most people don't think about, but it's equally important to say no to things and what we've said yes to and what we've said no to, and really making progress on that stuff has been the biggest piece. Yeah, I mean, I came in with a list of things, that I wanted to change or impact, and then really the market caught on fire about the time I took over with this data center boom in Atlanta that's really helped fuel our growth. So there's a lot of opportunity also, but just getting focused on what was really important. And with the growth in our business, it takes more people and it takes more cash. So those were two problems we identified early that we were able to put a lot of effort in and really, in a lot of ways, able to solve the cash problem through banking relationship and some other changes we made. And so, big our growth in the finding more people. So that's kind of been a constant focus. But the other thing that's happened really early this year, I realized at the end of last year, 2 years in working with Benj, we kind of solved all the big problems that I had on my list coming in. And I kind of looked up one day and said, oh, shoot, we were solving the problems of the company we were. And now we're, uh, roughly twice the revenue, a lot more people. We've got a whole new list of problems. And, what we're growing into and where we're headed is another list of problems. So having the process and getting away from the busy day to day and sitting in a room together has been extremely beneficial in focus and unity. And then the other thing I'll say, I talk to people all the time who are, say they're running EOS Lite or they're running some business system, and but they don't work with a coach because they just run it themselves. And I say, why? Why would you do that? Why would you not benefit from being one of the players in the room, giving feedback and working the things out and let somebody else run the meeting and ask the questions? And some of the stuff Ben just asked us or pointed out or, told us we were avoiding, all of those things have made significant impact. I'd say one of the biggest impacts is just defining the economic engine piece. So we defined that in the first day or 2 days that we were with Benj doing our first planning. What fuels our economic engine is our revenue per man hour. And we had never looked at our work that way. But with the pinch point in our growth being the manpower, the field electricians, that made a lot of sense. And when we took that back and applied it to the way we looked at projects and the way we looked at things, it just made a big difference in project selection and where we were focused. That I think ultimately has driven our profits and our growth. But I mean, our identity statement and where we're going is, we're moving more to off-site construction, which for us is more like manufacturing a warehouse environment versus building things on a job site. So we committed to that, to growing that piece of the business to 25% of our labor being off-site by 2030. That piece has just having that as a vision and direction of where we're going and that influencing everything else has really, helped us make good decisions on both projects and people and where we invest and automation and software we've invested in. So it's and I think the biggest piece of it is it just unifies us and gives us the focus and the vision of where we're trying to go. And then the why statement too, or the because we said we're creating even better opportunities for those that come behind us. And in a business in a industry that's getting gobbled up by private equity and big Wall Street roll up companies, having that focus and not losing sight of the why. And we had a meeting about a month ago with a bunch of field foremen that was a future leaders dinner where we brought a bunch of people in that were younger, either hadn't been with us very long or new to the industry altogether. And there was about a dozen of us down there, as a leadership presenting different parts and pieces. And I realized in that group, when I started in the business 20 years ago, of those 12 individuals, only two of us held positions that existed 20 years ago. So what we've been able to do through the growth and the focus on the offsite construction is just creating significant opportunities for new individuals to come into roles that didn't exist before. So it's exciting to be able to give people opportunities and see them grow and succeed. Getting the right people in the right seats is a lot of fun and really moving the needle. And a lot of those conversations started in Ben's office. So before we started with this, the company really didn't have, there was no annual or long-term goals. I mean, most of what happened was just riding the wave of the market. And, we get jobs and we grow a little bit. And then the next year we fall off some. And so really coming together and having the focus and the goals, I think has allowed us to make the impact. And we do the annual deal and then the quarterly updates and doing the weekly syncs. The weekly syncs have been huge for my team and just staying on the same page and updated. And I think it really does minimize the need for other meetings. And we still got some growth ability there and getting people to add opportunities to the list rather than shooting emails and whatnot. But we've really tackled a lot of problems in those sync meetings and it's been really helpful. I was bought in and a believer. My anxiety around it was more getting the team on board to a new thing and a new process. And it was in the first 6 months of me taking over. So it was all new to the organization, and getting the buy-in was really a hesitation for me. But as soon as we did it, the first offsite, everybody was on board at that. I just had to get him there. And a funny story about when Benj came over here to help us with our values. I pushed that hard, and I was one of three vice presidents at that point, and our CFO was about to retire. He'd been around the business for a long time, and our president at that point was like 2 years from retiring, and then our chairman of the board, who's still around. They'd all been in the business forever, and I thought it was critical to have them involved in a values discussion and definition process. And so I convinced them all to let me get Benj to come over here and run that for us one afternoon. But I remember our president at the time, right before the meeting, he's like, I just don't understand how this guy, why we're paying this guy to come tell us what our values are. I said, just come to the meeting. He's not telling us what our values are. That's not what he's doing. He's going to help us, define them, because you can't define them. Okay, well, I'll come. And then at the end of the meeting, he was like, that actually went really well. I think that is, in one word, it's control. I feel like I have way better control of the business because we're looking at the right numbers. We're looking at the right scoreboard data. We just went through last quarter and set some new KPIs that we're going to track on the scoreboard. And some of those are, we got some work to do to be able to land on numbers for those. But even getting to that point where we're refining those to look at the right information, it gives me confidence that we're seeing the things we need to see, rather than digging through a whole bunch of reports and a whole lot more data. We are seeing the KPIs that are really moving the needle, And we've moved more toward a lot more forward-looking KPIs instead of just looking in the rear view mirror and all the meetings and monthly reporting. So those things have made a huge difference. But again, just the doing the syncs and all being on the same page, the unity and the communication with the team is something that we've never had before in this organization. Even our quarterly last week, there was some conflict that came to light, and some guy it got pretty heated, which was necessary and healthy. And it was nice to have Benj there to help coach through it too. But being able to get in the room and disagree and, come to an agreement, walk out on the same page, I think it helps lift the whole organization just because they know we're all pulling in the same direction. We don't have confused team members below us trying to figure out who they're going to keep happy. Well, I've been here 20 years now. I've been in this seat for just over 3 years. So I think it's given me confidence in knowing that we're looking at the right things and they're where they need to be, and we're tackling the right problems. It's helped me say no to a bunch of other things that have helped me keep some capacity to deal with the important things when they come up, because that's a big thing I've had to learn over the past 3 years is just my time is most valuable with the company when I can jump in and help tackle a problem when it comes up. So having capacity in my schedule to deal with that stuff has been critical, which means I have to say no a whole lot more than I used to or that I want to. But sometimes no is a yes, but I'm going to delegate this to somebody else, which goes back to the bringing other people up and giving opportunities. I mean, the short answer is I don't know how anybody does it without a system. I don't know how or why anybody does it without a coach. It's an easy thing to add to your business. And if you haven't done it, go try it because it makes all the difference in the world. In all the groups I'm in and people I talk to, I don't know of anybody who has had a coach to help them in a process like this that doesn't still have a coach. So there's plenty of people who don't have a coach, and we talk about the same problems, seems like year after year. That extra accountability, that extra clarity, a good coach has seen a lot of things and asks a lot of questions that, sometimes we're not even willing to ask ourselves. But when Benj comes up with a question to ask a group, then we have to work through and answer it. Sometimes that's the best part of the meeting. Just try it. Why not try it? It's made a world of difference in our business. I actually started as an intern before I graduated, and then they brought me in right after I graduated. So I've been here since full time since like January 3rd of 2005.